I've got Black Panther, which is from Oakland director Ryan Coogler, who is only 31, which I just find so unfair. Like, that's just not fair that you get to be that talented and have that many good movies out at that age. Like, just making the rest of us look bad. So after seeing Black Panther, I've decided that I never want to see a superhero movie directed by a white man again.
Oh, really?
Because in the last 12-ish months, we've had Wonder Woman, which is directed by a woman, Thor Ragnarok, which is directed by another person of color, and now Black Panther. And they've all been outstanding. And then you look at the ones by white men, and it's like Justice League, which was a trash heap.
Oh,
so
horrible. I agree.
I'm just saying, hey, Marvel, hey, DC, hey, other companies, like, look what happens when you hire minorities. So I think this is Marvel's best Shakespearean superhero film. It stars Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrera, Daniel Kaluuya, Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, and Sterling K. Brown. So basically most of Black Hollywood is in this movie right now, which is awesome. And I guess it also has Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis as your token white people, and which is funny because they're both from Lord of the Rings. So the joke is they're the Tolkien white people in this movie.
Got it.
I think, like most of the other Marvel movies right now, it's helpful to have seen the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I get tired of. Like, I've seen them all, and I still forget things going into these movies. And, you know, like, it's like Easter eggs, right? Or like moments at the end, and you're like, oh, yeah, this picks up from the last one. And I do think Black Panther is pretty good about being a little bit self-contained. Like, you don't, it's helpful, but they also drop right into it.
Yeah, and I can tell you, as somebody who never has seen any of the Marvel movies, that I was fine just getting dropped right in and seeing it.
Excellent. Yeah. So I think Ryan did a really good job of establishing all these relationships between all these characters without like too much insane exposition. Like, it relies on it a little bit just because you have to set up, you know, hey, there's this like hidden kingdom in the middle of Africa, and hey, there's all this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's really about the relationships between all these characters, and he sets those up really quickly. And I was just really impressed how much like you care about all of them, and they all feel relatively fully formed, even though, you know, this is supposed to be the story of Black Panther. I loved how badass the women are in this. Like, Lupita and Denai are just amazing and like have the better fight scenes, I'd like to say. Like, they're all these women warriors. I was all about it. It made me feel like really, you know, you're like empowered at the end. And I won't go into the plot too much because I think you should and probably will see this movie. My issue with it, and this is my issue with all Marvel movies these days, is like the villain part is a little, like it's the weakest part of it. Michael B. Jordan plays Killmonger, who's a character in the comics. They explain why he is the villain, and I think it makes sense in the context of the story, but I just felt it was a little like, okay, he's here, we're accepting this, bye. Yeah, it wasn't, I felt like it could have had a little more explanation and a little better, like more drawn out resolution.
And I think the thing about him is he was like he's so likable, but then also at the very beginning when they first introduce him, he's very likable because he's kind of shoving it in the face of the, you know, kind of the white hierarchy at the time. And it's like, oh, I like this guy. Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to like this guy?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the point of it, but I think it to me felt a little rushed.
Right.
And like a little extreme, right? Like he comes in, he has these ideas, but they're so extreme that you're like, well, of course you can't like that, as opposed to feeling like, well, no, I kind of understand where he's coming from. Like, this is the heart of this conflict. So but again, I think it's a more interesting conflict than like half the other Marvel movie, you know, things. It's like, oh, some giant dude wants to destroy a planet just because it's a planet. All right, whatever. You get his motivation. This one, there's a little more complex. I just wish there had been more. But, you know, that's a problem with like Marvel villains in general. And I will say, this is not the first Black Marvel superhero movie, technically, depending on how nerdy you want to get about, because Blade is a Marvel character.
Oh.
And so, you know, I don't think Marvel Studios made it, but it's still one of those things where I'm like, but
I'm
this
saying it counts because I love Blade.
Yeah, but I think this is by far like the best, and it's one of the better superhero movies in the MCU that we've seen in a while. So I was super happy with it. I think everyone should go see it. My only request now is just like a non-whitewashed Asian superhero movie. Like, come on, Marvel, come on, DC. Like, one of you guys can do this, because now we got Black Panther, we've got Wonder Woman. Like, I give it, you know, like, or an Indian one. Just give us something else. Let's keep this going.
Is there a Marvel character from the books, from the comic books?
There are plenty of Asian Marvel characters. We already had, like, Iron Fist was supposed to be that, and they made it a white dude. So shame on you.
Wait, that wasn't the Matt Damon one. Right?
No. It's a
else.
Netflix show. That's a Netflix show.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but it's just, anyway, that's my other soapbox issue. But I appreciate like how how they very much embraced like the blackness of this movie, and that they, like even all the like designs and like the superhero gear they have is all like African inspired, and like the spaceship looks like an African mask, and it's awesome. And it's just like all these little touches. I was like, yes, I get why people are so excited about this movie. I'm kind of jealous, I'm jealous that I don't have that for like my culture, but like I want to see more movies like this. So all I have to say is Wakanda Forever. Go see this movie like 2 million times. 5 out of 5.
Whoa!
Wow.
Go see Black Panther, and it's out today.
It is out today.
Right? There you go. You've got another one too, right, Dana?
I do. I've got Early Man, which is also out today, and it's from Aardman Animation, and they did Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit, Pirates, Bands of Misfits, Shaun the Sheep. So really the cutest animation like ever. Like they do, I think, some of the most adorable animation I've ever seen, and they do stop motion, so it's some people call it claymation, but they use the various like things in it, but it's the puppets, and they move like one little bit at a time, and then you take a picture and they move one little bit at a time, and you take a picture, and it takes years to make these movies.
Amazing that they still do it.
Yeah, why do they do that?
A lot of spare time in Britain. No, I think it's got a lot faster, but it's just like the artistry is so impressive, and they have to build every little prop, and I love them so much. Which is why I was so sad that this one just did not live up to my expectations.
Oh, no.
And I had really high expectations because I think Chicken Run is one of like the funniest films of all time. I still quote it to this day. It's the story of this tribe of Stone Age people kind of being pushed out of their like idyllic wilderness by the Bronze Age, coming in and like deforest it, which I was like, is this an environmentalist movie? Okay, all right, why not? But it somehow culminates in soccer.
Huh?
Yep, sure. I'm not a big soccer fan. I know a lot of the world is, so I think this will definitely have like an international audience. I know people like love soccer, so it definitely has a bit of football.
Yeah.
It has an audience there, and it's got like impressive voices. It's Eddie Redmayne, Tom Hiddleston, Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, and then a bunch of other famous British people who
I was going to say, so no Americans.
No
Which
Americans.
is great.
Yeah. Depending on Anglophilia, like you'll know who the rest of the voice cast is, but like for some of us, it's like I don't know who you are. And usually these movies are so funny, and this one just like wasn't so much. And I thought like the jokes just didn't land for me, and I was like, okay, maybe it's because I'm not British. And but one of the friends who saw it with me is British, so at the end I turned to her and I was like, was this funnier for you than it is for me? And she was like, not by much.
Yeah, that's too bad.
But it did really well in Britain, so clearly there's an audience for it. I think if you have little kids, it's cute. They'll laugh at some of the, like the weird, absurd stuff. I love some of the absurd humor was my favorite part of it. I just didn't feel like there was enough of it, and I think the main story, like the jokes, just didn't quite land for me, and like the timing felt off, which is really weird because usually they're really good about the like kind of Monty Python-esque pantomime humor. And so I was like so sad, and it's so sad because how many years and like painstaking amounts of work go into this.
Seriously.
And then you're like, oh. And I was reading the other reviews of it, like other critics, and I've noticed that like nobody wants to bash it because I think we all love Aardman so much, and like you're just like your love for them prevents you from like hating this movie. I didn't hate the movie, but I did notice that we're all being like a little softer on them, and I also have to do it because I love them so much, and I expect better from them on the next go around. So I'm gonna give it a generous 3.3 out of 5.
Okay.
All right, fair enough. Sounds like a rental to me. I mean, and especially if you love cinematography like I do, just something to look at.
Yes, yeah, and again, it's like so cool. And if you watch, there's all these amazing breakdowns online of like how they make the puppets. Also, they had one of the puppets in town in San Francisco this week, and it's like they had it cut open and Frankenstein, and you see like all the joints and like the wires inside, and it's the freakiest thing I've ever seen. It's like, this is what nightmares are made of. But it's so impressive how they can turn that into this full-on performance. I just wish the performances had been a tiny bit funnier.
Fair enough. There you go. What was it called again?
Early Man.
Okay. Early Man.